Justice is the last word that comes to mind when a judge abuses a blind and disabled pro se representative to defend the doctor that butchered him. I was still recovering from all of these reconstructive surgeries and these surgeries that I was getting to try to fix my vision. I was lying in bed, unable to receive court documents, and this judge refused to acknowledge that. He should be ashamed to have the word honorable in front of his name. What kind of person? What kind of person? How much of a joke is the U.S. medical and legal system where if a doctor messes up your face and disfigures you so badly that you're blind, lying in bed for months and months and months, and then when you tell that to the judge and said you weren't able to participate in the court correspondence during that period of time, the judge dismisses everything, doesn't care, grants the defendant butcher doctor whatever he wants. How despicable and disgusting of a human being do you have to be? How unbelievable is that? I had that case management conference yesterday, and when I brought up 3 points to the judge about why he's ignoring all of my filings and everything, he didn't have anything to say. He just ignored it and proceeded with what he was going to do anyway, which is defend this doctor. And I think the best way for me to explain this is to show you guys the 2 filings I have in front of me that I'm filing July 11th, Friday morning. One is a motion to recuse and demand for jury trial, which is explaining that this judge is biased and needs to be removed immediately from the case. And the second motion is to dismiss for insufficient process of service because the lawyers for Taban and defendants committed legal misconduct saying that I received these documents because I was in bed at my house while they were delivering these documents to my business, which means when they went to the post office to mail these documents, they didn't get a return label or signature approval or anything. There is no proof that any of these documents were delivered to me because they weren't. I don't have them. And he was like, oh, motion, I don't even remember what they filed. It was like a demurrer, which I never received. And he's like, oh, it's been granted. Frank Tufano, you have to respond to this. I'm like, I don't have the I literally told the judge, after I asked the judge, why aren't you acknowledging my filings, my notice to court, my request for leave because I had orbital reconstructive surgery? I was literally bleeding out of my fucking eyes, and this judge just ignored it. Like, you're not going to give me any time or any leniency? That is nothing short of misconduct. What kind of fucking justice system is that? When the person is incapacitated and you're issuing rulings against them as a judge. What the fuck is wrong with these people? How can you not be completely fucking ashamed of yourself? So after I asked that judge why he was ignoring all my filings, he said, do you have anything to say about the motions we're discussing today? And I said, yeah, as I just stated, I didn't receive them. The defendant's lawyers committed perjury. I did not receive the documents. And apparently my word as a non-Freemason, as a non-secret society member, as an actual human being, my word doesn't fucking matter to these evil fucking morons. Because when they come back to this planet, they're going to be digging fucking ditches for God knows how many lifetimes. And I'm going to be fucking laughing at them. Motion to recuse and demand for jury trial. In a hearing that occurred on July 10th, 2025, Judge Edward B. Morton Jr. has shown undeniable bias in favor of defendants, proving reason for immediate removal from the case so that Frank Tufano's complaint may be heard fairly. Judge Edward B. Morton Jr. has refused to acknowledge Frank Tufano's physically disabled state occurring from damages caused by defendant due to multiple revision procedures. Plaintiff was physically incapacitated up until June of 2025 and did not receive prior court documents as stated in a notice to court Exhibit A on March 18th that the judge has refused to acknowledge. Judge Edward B. Morton Jr. refused to acknowledge fraudulent affidavits filed by defendants claiming that they had properly served the court documents that were addressed in said hearing. Frank Tufano did not physically receive any court correspondence as he was visually and physically disabled at the time of the claimed affidavit by defendant's legal representation. Despite Frank Tufano undergoing a severe and extreme orbital reconstructive procedure in May of 2025, Judge Edward B. Morton Jr. has not granted Frank Tufano any additional time or relief in this case. I literally made a video as I was coming out of that surgery, like the day or two after, laughing that these lawyers were still trying to call and email me as I was bleeding out of my fucking eyes. On the Honorable Judge Edward B. Morton Jr. fucking. Judge Edward B. Morton Jr. has ignored Frank Tufano's request for leave to amend filed on June 2nd, Exhibit B. Judge Edward B. Morton Jr. has ignored Frank Tufano's notice of appeal filed on June 2nd, Exhibit C. Judge Edward B. Morton Jr. has ignored Frank Tufano's third-party complaint against Lavallee and Singer filed on June 5th, Exhibit D. While courts do not generally have a duty to provide legal advice to pro se litigants, they do have a responsibility to ensure fairness and access to justice. This means judges may need to make reasonable accommodations to help pro se litigants understand court procedures and ensure they have a fair opportunity to be heard, but they cannot give preferential treatment or legal advice. Judge Edward D. Morton Jr. has not made any amount of effort to ensure that Frank Tufano understands the court procedures. And I would think as a minimum, you simply have to explain why. You have to say something. The judge can't just ignore me, which is what he did. He ignored me. He didn't help me at all. He didn't say anything. It would be completely unreasonable for Judge Edward B. Morton Jr. to suggest that Frank Tufano hire an attorney, granted the fact that Frank Tufano had contacted every known medical malpractice attorney in the state of California and has not been able to obtain representation, even if he had the financial capital to do so. Those lawyers would not help me. For the judge to be unable to provide a simple reason for the denial of the court documents is completely unreasonable and court misconduct, clear bias against a pro se litigant in favor of defendants. California Code of Civil Procedures, CCP 170.1, a judge shall be disqualified if any one or more of the following are true. A person aware of the facts might reasonably entertain a doubt that the judge would be able to be impartial. Frank Tufano requests that Judge Edward B. Morton Jr. be disqualified from this case as to be determined by a jury trial and not any individual judge, as any outside individual would see that the events that have occurred in this action by order of the judge have been in clear favor of the defendant. And I would say just downright, what is that, inhumane? Is there some amendment that he's violated by? Fucking ridiculous. And then jury trial demanded. And then this motion to dismiss for insufficient process of service just explains that these defendant lawyers sent the documents to my business address when I was incapacitated and recovering at home. However, if they had simply filed a return label address with the post office, they would have found that I was not at that address. These lawyers were just blindly mailing documents to an address assuming I received them and emailing me assuming I received them. But is a blind and disabled person lying in bed most of the day, unable to see, going to be receiving documents at his business? Or should you actually get a return label, which is what I've done with every single one of my documents to ensure they've been received by the court, where the post office delivers them and then sends you a piece of paper back saying, hey, this person acknowledged and received the mail for this person, which they didn't do. So I have to file the motion to dismiss the judge and the motion to dismiss all of the previous documents filed because I didn't receive them. And we're going to file these and see what happens because and then at that point, if the judge isn't going to acknowledge any of this, then I might as well throw in the towel. Because I have filed everything legitimately, and if they're going to try to take advantage of a blind and disabled person like that, I will smear them for the next 30 years. And by smear, I mean tell truthfully what has been done to me, factually, because that is all I need to do to expose how evil these people are. No lie has to be told, no slander has to be said. Everything I've said in this video is 100% factual, and these people should be ashamed of themselves.